How do you get invited to speak at academic conferences and you're really not knowing? I'm going to tell you a bit of a story. And from there, I'll tell you my experiences. This is really counterintuitive in terms of how people actually think about these and all of the advice that you're going to get from anybody that's around. So, Mr. Wrinkles really wants to go to conferences. He's always doing a lot of work, and it seems like he never gets invited to conferences. Mr. Slinky just simply says, well, it's really easy to get invited to conferences. All you have to do is do networking. You just have to be very, very strategic and figure out your way to connect with other people, and then you'll get invited to all sorts of other different conferences. Mr. Wrinkles says, I'm really sad about that. It makes me feel bad because I don't know how to actually do any of this strategic networking stuff. So this is a really common problem, and you'll hear this advice all of the time where you're probably Mr. Wrinkles, and then there's somebody else that says you just simply have to do all of this strategic networking, and then you get all of these different opportunities. At least for me, it really did not work out that way. And I don't feel comfortable. I'm not that kind of person. If you actually met me, I'm actually really, really shy. I am the type of person that just wants to go hide under a rock most of the time. But I like to be around people. I'm just inherently kind of a shy person. So I don't like to actually reach out to people. I feel that all of these emotions that come up, and it feels overpowering often. So I'm pretty much Mr. Wrinkles here, who cannot, by the way, this is my teddy bear when I was like 5 years old. I can never feel that way in terms of being very strategic. I think that happens to be, a personality trait that you can do those kind of things. But if you're like me, and probably like most people, I don't like being this kind of person, right? So I don't like being that strategic kind of person that Mr. Slinky is. He is kind of slinky. What I would rather do is redefine what I mean by success in my life. And that's the most important thing that you'll ever have to do and think about is how are you going to redefine the way that you look at the world? Most of the way that the world is going to teach you, whether it being in academia, whether it's actually in the business world, is going to be very, very strategic, right? It's going to be, this is what I need to do to go from here to here, right? And then I just have to execute on all of these steps. If you look at all of the frameworks that we actually have, there is a lot of frameworks that exist that we just simply have to follow this to actually get to there. But I personally don't think that's the way that the world actually works most of the time. The world is often very incomplete in terms of the information that's available, and it's very, very complex most of the time. So, Professor Dave, how do you actually deal with this? What do you do to redefine the way that you actually look at success in this world? All you have to do is just do all of the stuff that I have done and role model after what I have done, and you will become highly successful. So for me, that's just simply not true. So what I've had to do is just instead of role modeling after other people that are highly successful or what appears to be highly successful, I've had to veer off and do things that are uniquely me and be kind of a little bit weird in the way that the world views it. So here's the irony, though, is that when I become a little bit more of myself and I do things where I am just being me, then all of a sudden I realize that, yeah, you know what? Actually, most of the people that exist are doing the same thing that I am actually doing. And it's just that there is a few people that have a certain way of doing things that they like to be loud or they like to sort of show the way that they become successful. But most of us are kind of sitting there thinking in the side of like, I don't know what I'm actually doing. I'm a little nuts. I'm a little crazy. but I really don't know what I'm doing. So I don't feel like I fit in with all of this. So if this is you, rather than simply thinking that there is a successful way of getting to a certain place or you need to network in a very strategic way, why don't you just go and be yourself? Why don't you just kind of hang out? And if there's maybe one or two people that you eventually hang out with and have fun with, I think that that is how you're actually going to build a long-standing relationship that is really healthy, both for you and everybody else around you. So, what you're saying is not to worry about all of the different conferences that I'm not getting invited to. I shouldn't worry about all of the other things that are going on around you. Oh, I get it. Just because somebody else has different opportunities or doesn't look like me doesn't mean that they should actually act and behave like me. That's exactly it. It's just trying to figure out how you can redefine the way that you view your own world so that you're happy in your own little tiny world. And even if you don't get invited to too many conferences or you don't have all of these things that are going on around you, that is totally fine. And what you'll find out is that all of the effects, and I talk about this a lot on this channel, all of the effects of why you get invited to different things is often outside of your control that you can't do nothing about. Oh, I get it. It's because that it's the school that I went to, or it's because of the school that I'm at, or because of the different topic that I'm actually investigating, or because of the supervisor that I have that I'm getting invited to these different things. Yes, that's exactly it. It's because of all these other different effects of the reason why people get invited to different things. That's why they get grants. That's why they actually get their papers published, is because there's all these other things that are going on. If you view what we actually do is not necessarily the science that you think about, is like actually getting the right answer, and it's about becoming, increasingly more valid, but instead it's about building legitimacy. It's about figuring out who you are and doing this over a long time. All of a sudden things become a little bit more manageable. And yes, just because I am doing things a little bit differently and I think that I have figured out how to actually get things done, it doesn't mean that you actually have to do the same thing. It just means that the way that I figured out worked for me. It doesn't mean that it's actually going to work out for you. So ultimately, the best way to figure out how you should get invited to conferences is to realize, first of all, there's lots of things that you will never control. And lots of people will get invited to conferences simply because of the different things that they're actually doing or affiliated with, and it has very little to do with them. That's the reason why we have this kind of pecking order that happens in universities. Why there's some universities that have a lot of things that are going on. You might go to a university and there's lots of different people that are actually coming and going, and you get to meet all of those different people. But at other universities, it's not quite the same thing. And so what you need to do is pull back and be okay with yourself at any given time. I completely understand that, but it's so difficult to actually do. I really, really struggle with trying to be myself. I also really, really struggle with trying to not want to be part of the crowd. Yes. And that's fundamentally the problem that you're going to have to face, and you have to work at it every single day. At least I have to work at it every single day. It always feels like I am not part of the it crowd, and it's deeply ingrained in me that I want to be part of the it crowd. But I have to take a step back and I have to remember, yeah, you know what? Sometimes it's not going to happen that I'm not going to get invited to this conference or that conference. And that is okay. And that's where I have to simply work on me being me at any given day, where I say, you know what? I'm going to do okay today. And it doesn't matter if somebody else gets an invitation. It doesn't matter if somebody else is doing something else. I can be myself and I can walk forward. And that's what I've learned to try to be, is just more of myself and less like Mr. Slinky that wants to tell you to do everything the same way and tell you that there's very easy ways to get from here to there. It's not true always. I realize that, but I'm not going to tell you that because I think that there's actually an easy way to get to one place to the next. So long story short is just try to be yourself. And even though that you might not get invited to as many different opportunities as you would like, that's okay. It just means that there's many things that are going outside of your control, and you got to be happy with that and practice that every day. It's a practice skill to be happy. It's not something that naturally comes. You have to keep working at it every day. That means getting exercise. That means trying to practice smiling. That means letting go as much as you possibly can. All right, take care and have a wonderful day. Bye.